Hey, good morning or afternoon. I wanted to talk about prayer really quickly. So I have no section to read, but I've been thinking a lot about prayer, and then we were talking about stuff at my small group, and then I had watched this sermon online. So I have these thoughts in my head about prayer. So I made little notes to myself, but so for me, it's like there's the kind of prayer where you're like centering yourself and having quiet time and having peace and like going away in the morning, right, to have alone time and just meditate with God, if you will, right? Abide, with God. And fill up spiritually before you just plow into the day. So in that sense, it would be more like giving thanks and like first things first, right? Seek the kingdom, find God and rest in that peace and like ask, God to guide your thoughts, guide your actions, guide your reactions. How can you serve the Lord, today? What might be your priorities or things that God would want you to do versus just the millions of things on your regular to-do list? Like what would be God's will for you to do with that day? And to seek that out, and just whether it's reading the Bible or just having quiet time, and just having that peace, right? And Jesus always went away in the morning to like have some solitude and get centered and filled up and seek God's will and pray and have time with God. He always did that alone and in the morning. So that's a good way to like start the day versus just trying to do everything on our own, or trying to have our own plans or our own list of things or our own reactions or whatever. And that's easy to skip. It's easy to not do that and to just jump into the day. And if you don't do that in the morning, right, do it then at lunchtime, right? Like I'll frequently skip it in the morning, and then I'll on my lunch break have some time, or and then if you don't do that, well then before bed, like find some time to just align yourself. And I always think of it, remain in me and I will remain in you. But the first part is our remaining in, making that effort to like stay connected. And then the response is that we'll get that back, right? If seek and you will find. It's not, I'm going to dump myself all over you. Like you have to seek it out and then you'll find it. You have to remain in me, and then he will remain in us, right? It's kind of like us first. You don't just sit around. It's interactive, but it's also, we have to have the heart and the mind to like want to be in that place. So that's one thing I have written down about like the morning kind of prayer, like abiding. I think of it as abiding kind of prayer. And then what I almost never do is like praying for specific things. Like I wasn't raised Christian. I don't ever use God as a vending machine. I'm not like kind of like how other people will be like, well, God, if you do this or if this happens, then I'll do that. Like I don't ever make deals with God. I don't ever do any of that. Like I never do that. So, but there is, I think, value in, like some people are super good at Let me pray for other people. Let me pray for my children. Let me pray for my parents. Let me pray for my friends and my family and my pastors and the presidents and, world leaders and world peace and, pray for the poor and the weak and the elderly. And they have prayer lists of different people that they're praying for, or like, maybe in your small group, you have your prayer requests for the different people in the small group, or prayer for healing, or and then also prayer for ourselves, things that we're struggling with, but not first. Pray for other people first. Try to put other people. Jesus always put other people first. It was like Jesus always had compassion for the other, and then he acted on it. He wasn't just like, oh, my heart really goes out to that hurting person over there. Move on with my day. Right? He was like, my heart is going out to that hurting person. I'm going to go over to them and I'm going to touch them. And I'm going to heal them. I'm going to solve their problem. I'm going to help them cure their disease and make their family member come back to life. And, whatever he was doing, and it always involved touch and action. He did something. He cared, and then he showed it. Love in action. He didn't just pray to God and keep on walking. And that's my concern with sometimes I feel like I see a lot of some Christians who are like, well, I prayed, I've been deep, I've been heavy in prayer about this, but they don't do anything. They don't do what they could actually be doing to solve the problem. They just only pray. And sometimes I think the reason why it doesn't get solved is because God's like, you're the fix. You're the solution. I'm wanting you to take action, to be like Jesus. Love in action involves doing something. It doesn't involve only praying. Jesus never just saw the leper and prayed to God for that leper and walked away. Jesus saw the leper, prayed in the morning, but when he saw the leper, he acted, he did stuff. Right? And we're supposed to do that love in action, not pray and stop. It's kind of like there's different pieces to it. I do I'll pray for my kids, but sometimes it has to get to really bad where I'll be praying for my kids. Some people are really good at they pray for their kids every day. They speak life over their children. I'm not good at that. I tend to pray when I'm really worried or something, and or just really desperate for something or whatever. But so I want to get better at the praying for others. I think it's hard because I don't feel like I've seen value in that. What's the point? God wants to do something, God's gonna do something. I don't understand fully the concept of oh, you pray and then it works out, but I have seen enough where I'm praying and asking for myself for peace or calm or various situations to work out well, and it seems I don't know if it's the prayer or not, but it's things generally work out. It could be a coincidence, could be the prayer. I don't know. So it's just a growth area for me to get better at the praying for people. I'm more full of mercy. So if I see somebody struggling, my instinct is to help. I'm very I like to do the compassion action and solve the immediate need right then and there. I wouldn't pray. If I saw somebody struggling, I would go in and help if I could within reason, but I probably wouldn't pray for them. So that's just a piece where it's I could probably get better at that second step of trusting in prayer in that way, and maybe I just don't understand it enough. But so then there's those pieces about prayer, and then I've been trying to get better at too, like praying for, again, God's will for my schedule for the day, for my to-do list, for ways God would want me to serve. Like, how would I be a good lighthouse, right, for Jesus? Like, I don't know. Left to my own self, I'm probably horrible at it. But maybe if I start to pray for those kinds of things, like maybe there will be a shift. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll learn together. But, and then again, not to worry, because worry leads you down the path of darkness. And it's really easy for the devil to just get a foothold and take control of everything if you're stuck in worry, right? It's just like Star Wars. What is it? Like, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering or something, whatever Yoda says. It's like super true. It's exactly how it works. So literally, don't worry. It's not just like, oh, don't worry, God's got it. But like, stop yourself from worrying. Don't, because it's a downward spiral. And how do you stop yourself? By praying and by being thankful and by giving praise and, you know, having gratitude, that taking control of your mind and redirecting your thoughts away from worry and toward prayer. And that helps you move from pain to peace, you know, and handing it to God, having open hands and releasing those struggles. Hi, sweetie. Releasing those struggles to God, like, truly does help. And like focusing on this divine, right? Focusing on things above, focusing on God, focusing on the good, not keeping a record of wrongs, not focusing on the pain, not focusing on the bad. And especially too, like, to be cognizant of people who do have, like, who suffer from like depression or anxiety or actual mental illnesses, you know, that maybe require medication or something. And when their brain like makes them truly see things skewed, like they might interpret stuff as negative that isn't actually that negative, and they might get stuck in that place in a different kind of way than somebody else would. And to just be aware of that, like if the person you're interacting with is truly suffering with a mental illness, like, there's only so much you should be holding a grudge against them for being a mean person if they're stuck. And so that's where Jesus is like, pray for your enemies, love your enemies. Because if this person is having we'll just say official depression, and they're stuck, and you're hating them for what they did, that's one outcome. Versus if you're praying for them and wanting the best for them and trying to help heal them, like, your responses to them are going to be different, and your internal feelings about the situation are going to be different. So, and then also I wrote down about Jesus being a suffering servant, right? How Jesus always focused on truth, and he demonstrated love, and he was so forgiving, really taught us how to love in action and through touch. I'm surprised there's not more touch in the churches, to be honest. Touch, considering how much Jesus touched, it's shocking how little touch there actually is in churches, or with Christians. Some people do. I really like the Christians that touch, because I'm a toucher. I'm a touchy-feely person, you know. I like the people who put their hands on you and pray for you, like touch you. There's something about that touch that is crucial, I think. So, but anyway, and then, so like, Jesus was outcast, Jesus was rejected, Jesus was alone, Jesus' family didn't believe him. Like, Jesus suffered. Jesus was in pain a lot of the time, but he didn't, I shouldn't say it that way. He didn't hold that pain. He felt it. He understood what that's like, but he probably gave it to God, right? Because But so then when we experience those things, when we're outcast, when we're rejected, when we're alone, when our family doesn't believe us, when people turn like that, because Jesus said, if they do it to me, I'm God. If they're doing it to me, they're going to do it to you. Like, warning, heads up, they will do it to you. You will suffer on earth like I did, you did. Right? It's that whole carry your cross with me. I carried my cross. You're going to be carrying your cross. It's just the way it is. And so that's another thing, again, for the Christians to keep in mind. If somebody is experiencing strong being outcast, being rejected, being singled out to be alone, their family doing, not believing them and being like that to them, don't act like, well, there's something wrong with that person then. Because there was nothing wrong with Jesus. It's just a thing that happens. If anything, it's probably a sign that that person is doing something right, because Jesus said, this is how it's going to be for my disciples. And it's just something to just be aware of. Jesus was homeless. He wasn't like he was some rich guy traveling around. He was homeless. So when he says take care of the homeless, he really means it, because he's been there before. So when you're like, well, I'm not going to give anything to that one, it's like Jesus is like, well, I probably would rather you would, is my opinion. But anyway, so I have just been focusing on the different aspects of prayer, because like sometimes I'll skip the my abiding, like quiet prayer time, and then I'll just do these videos and read the Bible section or whatever. And other times I have my quiet time and my devotional time and my alone time, and then maybe I'll do this separately. So it's just this. Talking at the camera is different than abiding with God. It's different than quiet time with God. It's different than actual prayer, or even pray. Like, I don't really pray on screen, but some people do. But the Bible does say, like, don't do stuff for an audience. Don't do stuff. Don't pray in a way where people are hearing you and watching you. Like, I pray privately to God is how I do it. There might be a day when I pray on here, but there's a fine line. Like, you don't want to be praying for show, So that's the difference, where if it's completely genuine and you're able to be in the moment and all of that, that's different. But not that people who pray publicly are doing it for show. I think there are some people who are amazing at public prayer and also are able to be abiding with God in that moment at the same time. That takes a level of maturity I don't have yet. If I was praying publicly out loud, it would feel very much to me like for show, right? Because I talk to God pretty open, and I might not say it. I might be more polite and less myself for show, and God knows the real me, and I talk to God like the real me. So I don't know. But anyway, so that's just all the various different thoughts I had about prayer and Jesus and abiding with God, and how Jesus suffered and how he was a servant, and that always came first. So I don't think any of this all aligns together as one common theme, but those are the various topics on my mind today. And that is it. I hope you have an awesome day. It's really hard because it's I can't interact with anybody. So there's nobody to where I can see well, what are the people listening to this? What are they struggling with? What could we pray for them, right? Whoever is hearing this, what do they need prayer for? It would be awesome if we could pray for whoever's watching. And yet I have no clue who's watching or what they need, but maybe someday. Anyway, talk to you later.